And I would like to, first of all, introduce our online and on-site moderators. We have May on site or online. Can we see you? May? May is a founder and a managing director. Hi. Of the Keier group of Myanmar, and is a mother of 4 children. She was formerly leading her family business in fast-moving consumer goods, and then went out to venture on her own into real estate services and logistics as well in Myanmar. But then 4 years ago, due to COVID and the difficult situation in Myanmar, she resettled down to Singapore, where she's based today, isn't it? And had a mid-career transition into healthcare and education, and as a corporate employee. And right now she's on a career break now because entrepreneurship is her DNA, and she's trying to figure that out for her. So welcome, and thank you, May, to be here today's on-site moderator. And then we have on-site Ameli Heller. Ameli Melher and we met almost 2 years ago on an event, and as we were having our mentoring lounge right now, she reached out afterwards to me and asked, Britta, would you like to be my mentor? Just, she took this bold new move we discussed formally, and I did the same, and I shared that with her 7, 8 years back, also sitting next to somebody who was for me the grande dame de executive search. And I also, was curious and reached out, and that's how we met. And then we engaged since then. And you are a project leader of platformization at WISAG. And WISAG is a family-run company based in Frankfurt, and one of Germany's leading industrial service providers in the areas of maintenance, power supply, industrial cleaning, in logistics, etc. And you are responsible for a huge project there, and you are passionate about digitization, transformation, and innovation, and always willing to learn and grow. And I think you will become a very, very amazing leader in the future. You are already, but I see you already growing. So Ameli, I hand over to you, and then you introduce the panelists. Okay.
Hello. Oh, now it works. It feels a bit funny with the tiny mic, but I think we'll make it. No, it's fine. That's okay. Thank you for the introduction. I think that was the nicest introduction I ever got, and probably also for the future. So I'm really happy to be here. And yeah, a warm welcome to the audience to our today's panel, how leader can build, learn, and leverage the networks in the area of digitization. And before we start, I would like to ask you a question. Who of you heard the sentence, network is your net worth, before? Okay, yes, I can see a couple of hands going up. And yeah, this is also a sentence that really is important to me, and also why I, for example, made a step to talk to Britta. And yeah, it just highlights how crucial networks are in our professional and personal success. And that's why we are here today, to learn a bit from our panelists, from their insights and experience. And yeah, I think for the introduction, now that we are already introduced, Britta said that we're going to introduce the panelists, but we would like the panelists to say 1 or 2 sentences to introduce yourselves to the audience. And then we'll start with the first question. I'll hand over to Corinna first for the introduction, and then I proceed with the question.
The tiny mic. It's very strange, but so yes, Corinna Valentine. I have had a long career in financial services in 3 different countries. Started off in Germany, then I went to the UK, then I went to Bermuda, then I came back to the UK, and now I'm in Germany again. So kind of the circle has closed. I'm a qualified chartered accountant. I've had many leadership positions, and I'm very passionate about employee engagement, but also change, transformation, continuous improvement. I am married. My husband is in the audience today. He's amazing because he's become a home dad, so I can continue with my career, and he's facilitated all of the moves for us in, globally. And I have 2 children, 2 daughters who are 19 and 21, so they have kind of also left the nest, but still, I think somebody earlier said they still keep you busy. They tend to ring when you're just sitting on the sofa in the evening and share their life stories with you, but of course you patiently listen to them. So that's me.
So thank you for the introduction. Also, the first question is directly going to you. How would you say that leaders in this digital area can use technology to maximize their networks and their reach?
It's funny. So somebody in one of the earlier talks mentioned LinkedIn and sort of the more professional networks out there online, and I think that's really, really important. LinkedIn, or in Germany Xing, but maybe lesser so, is a great platform for seeing other people's opinions, connecting with people. I've become much braver in reaching out to people who I maybe see who have posted a cool post, and I think, oh, that's very much in line with what I think, and I reach out to them and I connect, but I always do it with a purpose. I'm not one of those people who just kind of clicks connect and then doesn't send a message. I get a lot of these requests too, and I go, I don't know these people. Why would I want to connect? Well, it was amazing. I wanted to connect with a speaker from a conference the other day, and she had something on her LinkedIn profile that said, "Where have you met me? And can you put in my email address here to prove that we know each other?" And I thought that was such a cool, kind of very focused thing of networking online. So the first thing I would recommend to everybody is to have a LinkedIn profile, make yourself visible, think about what you want to present. I have a mentee that I spoke to recently who was very unhappy in her current role and with her current employer. And then I said, well, in order to find a new job, should we have a look at your LinkedIn profile? And she said, I've deleted it because I'm so unhappy. I don't want to be associated with this employer anymore. And I then challenged her and said, how will you find a new job if you're not visible at all to other people? If you kind of it doesn't stop you working for this employer that you're not that you don't want to be associated for. So we're working on putting that online presence back together. On the second aspect, where technology has really helped, especially since COVID, for me is e-coffees. I love e-coffees. It's very easy to send a request to somebody to say, should we have an e-coffee? Because it doesn't matter whether they're sitting in Paris or Hamburg or wherever. It doesn't take so much time, and it's a very easy connect. So I'm great with having e-coffee. So if somebody wants to have an e-coffee with me, I'm kind of just send me a LinkedIn request. I'm definitely there. But for me, those 2 things, having an online presence, being visible, maybe comment on things on LinkedIn, really thinking about how other people see you, taking the opportunity to connect, and then having more virtual connections is working for me.
Thank you. Thank you for this amazing answer. I think all of you now have an invitation for coffee. I hope you don't get one from everyone, but this is a great chance to proactively get into networking. So thank you for this offering. And then I
Right,
hand-
we'll jump straight to the online. Hester, who we have distinguished panels. She's joining us currently from Thailand, and she's actually on a holiday break. And Hester, she is actually founding and managing partner of Epic Angels. So we'll hear from her directly on decorated journeys on the entrepreneurships and how she's been supporting in this network for women. And before that, Hester, before you introduce yourself, I'm going to then ask you a question. Maybe you can introduce yourself, then you can answer the questions. So your question for you will be, could you share with us how you have actually successfully leveraged your network to establish and grow Epic Angel as the largest all-female angel investment network, which I understand is about 350 females network, coming from 25 different countries. And yeah, Hester, hand over to you.
Hi, yes, thank you, Mei. Hello, everyone. Great to be here, although virtually from Thailand, indeed. So we live in Singapore, but we're here on a break. Great to be here. So yeah, I'm Hester. I'm Dutch, as you can probably hear. Not too far from Germany. Lived in Germany for 3 years before moving to Singapore. My background is in corporate world. I was at Deutsche Bank for 9 years. Before that at PricewaterhouseCoopers in the M&A team for 3 years. And 5 years ago, I made the switch into startup land. So set up 2 fully tech-enabled schools. Perhaps you know about them because that was all in Germany. They're called the schools 42. There's currently 3 of them. The first one is in Heilbronn, the second is in Wolfsburg, and the third one is in Berlin. So in 2019, I brought these concepts to Germany. That made me quit my job at Deutsche. And in spring 2021, these schools went live. That was my start as an entrepreneur, and I would never go back to corporate life after that because I love the energy that you can put in things that matter instead of like the internal the hierarchies and dynamics, which also has a lot to do with networking, by the way. So live in Singapore since 2020. In the middle of COVID, we moved here to Singapore, and indeed, as Mei said, founded Epic Angels, which is now the largest all-female angel investment network. So that means that we invest in early stage startups. Our investors come from 29 countries by now. And yes, I love to work with investors, giving women, especially the courage to invest, to think of themselves as investor, help founders grow great companies, and also encourage women. And that has to do with the topic of today, become confident founders themselves as well, because we also have too few female founders, especially the more experienced ones. They have something to lose, but I love helping them getting on the entrepreneurial path. To your question, Mei, how did I build Epic Angels? I think we must make a little bit of difference between building a member network, which is what Epic Angels is, right? So these 350 women, they pay a membership fee to be there. So what the value that we give them, they find attractive, and in return, they pay a membership fee. So just some learnings to that. How do you build a network of that sort? That is a membership network. About a year ago, I did some research with interviews, what creates a successful community. And these are the elements that came out. So first of all, a shared sense of purpose, right? You join a network because you have a shared purpose. Second, some exclusivity and selectiveness. So you come into a community like, I am one of them. But that means that other people are not one of them, right? So it is for certain people and it is not for other people. Personal touch, right? To engage a community, you need to have the personal touch, do things that don't scale, and the right level of engagement. Don't over communicate, but also don't communicate too little. So that is with regards to building a member network. And I see that a little bit different from building your personal network to actually expand your reach and increase your opportunities. Happy also to go into that, but perhaps we go into that later. Women who relaunch their career. Yeah, go ahead.
Hester, I have one more question. Additionally, in this paid membership network, could you actually share memorable stories of how this network has actually positively impacted an individual in your network for this EP Angel, especially in this digital era? How is that very important?
Yes, I think for all the women that join our network, there's about 60% who have never invested in startups before. And these women, one by one, take a huge leap of faith. They're like, okay, I'm going to put my personal hard-earned money into an early stage startup that may well fall over. So once they take that leap, they take the decision to invest when there's a personal click. We very clearly see that. When they take that leap, what happens on the other side is really they are very proud of themselves and did not think this was possible, right? They realize that a little bit more is possible in their lives, which they had not realized before. So that is a feeling of confidence that comes after that we love to help the women get there. Now, if we take it one step further, the money that our investors invest is in female-led companies. So these are startups that are led by females. There are some great stories. I mean, how women invest is they want to make a change with the money that they invest, right? 64% of the women who invest do so to make a societal change. 96% of the men who invest do so to grow their wallet. So the women in our network invest very much in startup-based, startup-focused companies. One example is in Philippines, we invested in a company that provides money for youth. So there's this layer, early 20s, it's 18 million Filipinos who do not have money to go to college. So this startup provides money to these people who are not credit worthy. So they typically cannot go to a bank, provide them with the life skills because it's mostly people from poorer backgrounds and they can go to college and have a proper education. Now, one of the girls that actually got one of those loans is Elvie that we met a few months ago. She is part of a Filipino family, 6 kids. The father drives a tricycle. That is the family income, just drives around on the street trying to get passengers to make income. Of course, that's not enough to sustain a family of 8. So she is going to college to help the family out and build a better future for the family. And this is kind of indirect, the impact that we love to make through the Angel Investment Network.
Amazing to hear an impact that a network can have. Now the next question is going to Anna. Anna, amazing to have you here. And maybe before I ask the question, you can also say 1 or 2 sentences to the audience to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. So my name is Anna Mattsson. As the name gives away, I'm originally Swedish, but I've grown up and lived in 8 countries since then. So what do I do today? So today I work for McKinsey & Company. I lead their strategy and corporate finance team in Switzerland, and globally I lead what we call the separation carve-out service line. So it's helping companies when they want to sell part of their business. I'm also the president of an organization here in Switzerland called We Advance, which works for gender equality in business, specifically targeting mid-level management to senior management, women to move more into senior management for women. Prior to that, I worked for a long time at Deloitte in London. I worked at Sony, lived in Singapore for a bit, lived in London for a bit, Germany, Vienna, etc., etc. So that's very excited to be here.
Thank you for taking the time. So I think now hearing how successful you are and how much you are doing for gender equality, the next question is perfect for you. And it's also a question that I think might interest a lot of here, including me. It is, how can aspiring female leaders use a network to take on opportunities in senior roles?
Yeah, so that is clearly one of my, as I call it, pet topics or pet projects, right? It's how do we get more women to create the right kind of mentorship, the right kind of sponsorship, the right kind of networks to help them progress. And let me just take a step back, because I would say, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 years ago when I started working, every time I heard networking, I felt it was like, oh gosh, this feels really weird, right? It makes me just my stomach crumble, right? It's, you know, it feels inauthentic, it feels false. What I've learned over time is that it's really, really fun, and you can make it really authentic as well. What I've learned is that, you know, nurturing a network, creating a network, you never know who you're, you know, when you can reach out to them, when you might need it, right? It's, for me, it's been for career progression. It could be for finding a new project. It could be to help someone who is looking for talent as well, right? And was able to help my clients find fantastic talent to join their organizations as well. So I think, you know, there's mutual benefit in it. One of the things that I find really interesting, there's some research on this, right? Men, when they network, tend to benefit a lot from face-to-face interactions. Women, actually, the research shows it's a little bit less of that. And then what I mean by that is that kind of hallway conversation. You know, you see a senior leader, you walk up and tell them about that amazing sale you just did, etc. Right? Works a little bit less well for women, works really well for men. And part of that is because of our stereotypes and perceptions that how we expect women to behave, how we expect men to behave. What we see, though, is that what some of the data shows is that endorsements, so third-party interactions, is really what's helpful for women. What does that mean? And that is something that I really, truly believe in, is like, can you help others to connect, right? Can I introduce someone? Because it gives that, you know, it gives that stamp of approval. So one of the things I think all of us can do is help other women to get introduced to the right people. I do a lot of things around women in tech as well. And here's one of the really scary statistics on that. Women who get endorsed by men when they have an idea in tech, 70% more likely that idea gets heard, 200% more likely that idea gets implemented if a man just repeats that idea, right? So kind of, anyway. So one of the things I very much believe in is like creating sponsorship opportunities. And that's how, so with networking, right? You can start with the mentorship, like that, all that good advice, but eventually trying to move into more sponsorship opportunities. Sponsorship means someone who's going to bang the table for you, who is going to be your voice when you're not actually there. So that's something I also like really encourage companies to build out programs like that. And then for all of us to actually help others to help, you know, sponsor and mentor.
Thank you.
All right.
So making networking fun and also ensuring to sponsor each other.
Thank you, Anna. It's really great. I hear women helping other women, promoting that, and how that has helped you with having those mentorships and sponsorship opportunity in organizations. Right. Now we have the for the gender equality, even in our panel, we have our Andreas with us, the only male representative for today. Andreas, Andreas is actually head of Amazon Marketplace in Sweden right now, and as aligned to all the other distinguished international panels, every one of them have well-traveled. So for Andreas, maybe you would like to introduce yourself first.
Oh, and I talked to Anna on LinkedIn actually a few days ago that she is the Swedish person in Germany, Switzerland, right? While I'm the German person in Sweden at the moment. So we switched the role, at least from the geographics here. First of all, I'm really sorry that I cannot be in this room. I wanted to be in this room, but I traveled quite a bit during the last days. And as I have some family here, I wanted to spend this week here, but I'm next week in Munich. I'm traveling a lot. And I like this idea from Corinna with this e-coffees. So I'm stealing your idea with this e-coffees. So whoever wants to have an e-coffee, we can do this online. We can do this in person. Please connect me on this one. For me, what I said at the moment, based in Stockholm, my journey started in Germany, as you can hear from my accent. During my university career, I worked in a student organization, which you heard earlier today with ISIC, where I got in contact with Melissa, with Margit before, with Jenny, and so on. And they sent me to Singapore on an internship where I worked for DHL. Then I moved to Japan, worked 5 years in Japan, where I met my wife actually. Then I got an assignment in the Philippines, was a sales director for DHL in the Philippines, where my first son got born. And then again, through this network of WISAG, I got in contact with people who worked at Amazon. They got me in contact with this executive recruiting department there. And then I landed in a position with Amazon in Germany back when my second son got born. And I did lead the Prime Fashion team. And 3 years ago, when we launched Amazon in Sweden, they asked me, hey, Andreas, you have a lot of experience with launching countries or launching teams. And so would you be interested in launching Amazon in Sweden? And it was a unique opportunity. We moved to Stockholm during this Corona time, so it was a little bit tricky to build the networks at the very beginning. Easier in Sweden probably than in other countries, but still it was a little bit more difficult. And then my third daughter got born, and so now we are here with 3 kids and my wife.
So Andreas, very decorated series and across countries and also across industries. So Andreas, just to bring a parallel to what Anna has shared, from your experience as a male, a male leader in this industry, how does it differ in leveraging your network during your career transitions across countries and also across industries?
And I would like to twist it a little bit, because I think the most important is how your character works with networking. And I'm a very introverted person. I hate actually to going to fairs and trying to connect with people there, or going to big events and so on. It drains too much energy for me. I need then this time to recharge my batteries as an introvert. And so therefore, what I did is I used my existing network, which with WISAG I had a quite good network. And then I tried to build in each country networks which moved around a bit as well. And I always looked up LinkedIn. We heard from Corinna, LinkedIn is a great tool, right? And I used LinkedIn in these new countries of, hey, who in my network is actually here to give me some local insights, some cultural background and so on. Endorse me to other people, right? So this is as well, this endorsement, I think, worked in my career very well, that, hey, I know this person in that country. Don't you want to connect with him? Secondly, similar like with this e-coffee chats, I do this at informal interviews. When I came, for example, to Sweden, and I had no clue how e-commerce, how startup scenes works here. So for me, it was like that I tried in LinkedIn to find people who are either similar in the similar industry and so on, or some different personalities. And I asked, hey, should we have a get to know meeting? It helped that Amazon was new in this country and everybody wanted to get to know Amazon. But I think this overall informal interviews worked quite well. And the last one is giving back a bit. So if you build up networks, it should be always mutual. You should find something which you can give to these networks as well. And I looked for these kind of networks. So I became a member of Mentor Sweden, for example, and started to engage myself in these local communities. Or there was an organization, Nordskin Foundation, which is advising startups, which look for advisors, where I said, I'm happy to do this. There are some other organizations like the Chamber, the Junior Chambers, or the Normal Chamber, the Rotary Club, the Lions Club. So to find chambers or organizations where you can give something back, it's helping as well proactively to build networks.
Right, thank you, Andreas. Back to Ameli.
So my next question goes again to you. You said that you like e-coffees a lot. Do you distinguish between e-coffees from people who are inside of your organization or outside of your organization? And if yes, what are some things that you do differently?
So there is oh no, that's now, I'm just gonna talk without divide that. For me, there's a difference between internal and external networking, because internal networking takes a lot less time. You can do network while you wait for a meeting to start, and you see somebody that you've not met before, and you have a bit of a chit chat, and then you can also invite them to an e-coffee if they sit in a different country. I need to take this off. All good plans. No, it's fine. I'm getting used to this mini microphone. So for internal networking, I network very differently, because you kind of, somebody mentioned the coffee machine, the corridor, and if you're open and you talk to people, introduce yourself, that's relatively easy. It doesn't need a lot of time, and often, people know you. If I'm in a leadership position, often people know me, whereas I don't know them. So it's kind of nice to introduce yourself again and and know about the other people. And for me, it's easy. External networking is harder, definitely. It takes more time. You have to very carefully think about who you want to network with, how you build your network. You don't have a brand. So when you introduce yourself to somebody, you need to know what you stand for, why you want to meet with them. So it's different. But I network individually, externally, but I also joined a number of formal networks, often to do with diversity. Britta and I met through one of those networks, and I attend some events, and I've become a lot more open about talking to people, but it's very different. Internal and different, and external are different because of the time consumption and the brand you need to build.
So when working externally and you have to put a lot more effort in, would you recommend, or what would you recommend if, for example, internal, I like my organization and I want to get to the next career step in the organization, but maybe I have used everything internally and now I'm looking for opportunities externally to help myself move forward internally? Bit of a complicated question, but maybe you have some advice in this specific scenario.
No. I absolutely get it. So for me, if you think about internal networking, for me that addresses three things. First of all, you get your job done. You find, for me, because I've moved around quite a lot, I've built an internal network, and then I sometimes think, oh, I have a problem here. I met somebody 10 years ago. I'm just checking that they're still there, and then I'm going to reach out to them with my problem. So getting your job done. The second bit is you learn more end-to-end about the company internally, which can help you move forward in the career. And the third bit is to make yourself visible to senior leaders. And I just want to share this story very quickly. When I was asked to move to Germany 9 years ago, I found myself in the hotel, and one of the very senior leaders of Fidelity was sitting there having breakfast. And I was sitting there thinking, oh, he probably doesn't remember me. I met 10 years ago. What shall I do? And then, sorry, Andreas, but I thought, what would a man do? And I thought a man would definitely get up and interrupt the breakfast and say, hello, So that's what I did. I got a very, very confused look from this gentleman whose breakfast I interrupted. But the great thing was I met him over and over again during the next 3 days, and he always knew who I was. And then when I formally applied for the role, I had an interview with him, and we kind of went back to this meeting, and it was fantastic. So this moment of, I felt a little bit mad, definitely out of my comfort zone, was definitely worth investing into this internal career visibility. And externally, I use my network as a sparring partner, maybe getting different perspectives. I've connected, I mentioned that already, specifically with women's networks, because at the senior leadership, especially in financial services, often I'm the only woman. And there are no other women, and I can ask, how do you deal with this? What do you do? This is quite difficult. So it's nice to kind of meet other women externally to get ideas how to tackle certain things. We talked about mentoring earlier, and I do a lot of mentoring because I didn't have a mentor in my early career. Nobody thought about diversity when I started my career. Nobody thought about mentoring, that women are different. So getting these external ideas, getting different perspectives, is really, really important, and also to further your internal career movement, because you want to be a little bit more diverse. This diversity of thought that you get externally is is important to bring new ideas, new perspectives. You know, we talked about mentoring. Get yourself a mentor, because that's external networking too, to get these different ideas, especially when you may be stuck in your career. So it needs to be a combination of both. Internal mentoring is, internal network is really, really important, but relatively easy. External networking takes a little bit more time, but gives you that different perspective. Does that answer your question?
It definitely does. Thank you.
Right, back to Anna, because since this is a very international panels, well, you know, everyone has at least more than 3 countries under our belt. So Anna, I want to, you know, you to share your personal experiences and also insight on what are the differences networking between the Asia and also European context.
And I was just saying, maybe Andreas will need to chime in here, having had spent more time, I think. And but just a bit of background, right? As I said, I've obviously I've grown up in Europe, etc., but I've lived in the US. But then also, you know, I've worked in Japan a lot because I was working for Sony, and a lot of my client work is in Japan. Lived in Singapore. And then you know, my children's father is Indian, so you know, I've seen, and I think one of the key things is, I think Europe is not Europe, Asia is not Asia. So even Sweden and Switzerland, which some people get confused because it's, you know, sounds very similar, it's very different. And I think, Andreas, maybe you can testify to that, right? But in Sweden, it's very common to network. It's quite open. It's very easy. Switzerland, at least 12 years ago when I first moved here, very traditional, very set networks already. Quite hard to break in as an outsider, as a foreigner, as a woman, definitely. You know, I got a lot of questions 12 years ago. Why do you even work, Anna, right? So trying to break into that, it wasn't that easy, right? So I think so I would say, first of all, I think there is country context that matters. And trying to understand a little bit how networks work, etc., reaching out to other people who might have arrived and kind of understanding what the specifics is. I don't see huge, you know, so I think there's differences by country in Europe. I think there's big differences, India versus Japan, for example, right? But what my recommendation is try and understand, like try and get some insights from local people in terms of how it works, what are no-goes, right? Is it okay to just reach out? How do you actually meet, right? How do you stay in touch with your network? I would say in some countries, like, and I would count Switzerland to that, you know, you're really expected to stay in touch. I would say in the US, if I kind of fly in, fly out, like that's okay, right? It's okay if they don't hear from me for a while, I would say, right? But here in Switzerland, there's a real expectations. You nurture your network, you kind of really stay in touch. This kind of third-party endorsement that I talked about earlier becomes important in a country like Switzerland, right? Probably becomes important in a country like Japan, has been my experience as well. And I was actually doing a little bit of research around that because I was like, this question is really interesting. And there is a bit of a correlation between how much can you trust open information in your country historically, right? So even in Europe, it's very different if you've grown up in Sweden and the Nordics, where generally you can trust the information, or if it's been in Southern Europe where you've had maybe different experience, right? Where there's been different kind of regimes and governments, etc. And then in those countries where you can't actually trust the open information, I think that's where those third-party introductions become even more important, where you need to almost like have a bit of an endorsement from someone else. But my tip is like try and like get some local friend, right? Like reach out to someone, be it a friend, a colleague, etc., and just ask the question: how does it work here? Right? How do you network? And then kind of, you know, go with it. I think one thing that's good is with COVID. I know a lot of bad stuff with COVID, but one of the good things is this kind of e-coffee. I think that is something that's much more accepted everywhere compared to what it was maybe before. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything, because I know there's a lot of experience in this for
Yes.
But I think, and if I can quickly jump in, right? So I absolutely agree with you that it's very hard one country to another country. They're completely different as well in Asia. But starting with learning the etiquette and learning the culture is important. And then coming back what you said earlier in the first question, right? With getting endorsements and getting people bringing you into these networks. I think in Japan, super important, right? To have somebody who is guiding you, who is helping you on this one. So I think this endorsement part is one of the key takeaways from the whole discussion at the moment, which we brought in earlier and fits to this question quite well as well, because every country is different and having somebody bringing you in, guiding you is really helpful.
Yeah, I agree.
Back to Ameli.
Yes, Andreas, I have the next question to you as well. It's a bit more about technology, and it's about your opinion. What do you think? How will networking strategies change with Gen AI, or how do you anticipate to change?
I think we are already in the middle of this one. So I'm seeing on Zoom here, this AI companion, right? So on LinkedIn, you have this function on optimizing my posts with AI. So I think we are already in the middle of this one. And I think this personalizing your messages to this right audience, I think this is something which will optimize and improve networking to get as well the right content out and get the right or get hopefully the right responses back on this one. Insights driven by AI, I think for preparing for meetings and so on, I think this will come much more. So having a networking meeting in 1 or 2 years compared to 20 years ago, I think people have already much more information on you, having already some anticipated question which you would like and so on. So I think this will all come up. I think the automation part is very useful, that meetings can be recorded and follow-ups can automatically created out of this one. So this is very useful, but there's also some threats and danger in there, because as well a lot can be hidden behind AI, and so there is a lot of discussions going online on at the moment with this authenticity and the trust in networking in the future. And for me, it's having to build a strong network. You need to get in personal contact with people, right? And we're coming back, Corinna, I think you started with this whole discussion with this e-coffees, right? And everybody is referring to this one now, right? So, but to having these kind of personal discussions, having face-to-face meetings and so on, these are building the strong networks. And then coming with endorsements as well. Maybe AI can help you to find the right person who you can contact, and helping him as well to give you the right information, but then getting more in personal touch. I think this will be important in the future as it is today, as it was 10 years ago.
Can I just add something? I absolutely agree with you, Andreas. And this is why I don't like getting just network, connect with me requests on LinkedIn without no kind of, I don't know this person, I don't know where they come from. They might have liked a post that I've made or an opinion I had, but there's no connection. And so I ignore those requests. I have to be very low.
I would also like to really, Andreas, what you're saying is so true. I mean, 40% of people prefer to network online, right? I think it's just a matter of time. It's easy. You can hop on a half-hour call. You have no travel time, etc. You can do that. But don't underestimate, especially for the in-person meetings, the role of serendipity. When you move around physically and meet people in person, things can happen that cannot happen online just because of the fact it's online. I can tell you a few nice stories about serendipity in how I ended up where I end up now. One is actually very close to where you are in Mannheim in Germany. That's when I just got the rights to bring School 42 to Germany. I was going to go to a friend in Switzerland, and I had been traveling a lot. So I said, okay, I'll just stay home, young kids at home. But then I ended up going to this Females in IT conference in Mannheim. And that is where an opportunity opened up to tell the story about 42. And 10 days ago, I gained the rights to bring that to Germany. So I grabbed the mic. I said, this is what 42 is about. I need money and I need people to build this with. And this is where I met my whole team, there was a whole team of volunteers. They lined up and said, I want to help you, right? So and together we built the two schools of 42. That was absolute serendipity, right? Just by being there. Another one, my business partner at Epic Angels, we worked together at PwC in 2006-07. We call it our previous lives. And we moved to Singapore in the same month after we had not been in touch for 15 years, talking about staying in touch. We could always work together well, but then we moved on. She moved to San Francisco. I moved to Deutsche Bank. I didn't even know where she was. And then I found her on LinkedIn. I was like, Mike Doyer in Singapore. And we met that same evening. And now we are running Epic Angels for 3 years. So this is pure serendipity of moving places where you meet people, and don't underestimate it. Because when I look at my career path, I would have called people crazy, said in 5 years' time, you're going to be there. I said, never am I going to work at a bank. Yet by meeting people, I ended up there, and I don't regret any step that I took. So that is just to say, like, don't do everything online. There's a lot to be found and things that you cannot plan for when you meet in person.
Right. All right, Hester, we all talk about the in-person meeting, right? And we just want to back to our topic, right? As the closing question, since it's about digital world and how things are evolving, right? We talk about a lot of e-coffee, online, LinkedIn. How do we then actually, in this digital era for networking, how do we keep it very authentic and meaningful? You know, like Connie was mentioning, you know, we don't connect and then just say hi or just clicking a button, but connect to connect. So how can we do that more authentically?
Is that a question to me?
Yes, Hester.
Yeah. Okay, no, online, I think it is super important that you stay personal. That if anything, stay personal, because it's rather impersonal online. So stay personal, make sure you know who you're talking to, do your homework, right? Even if you are warmly introduced, do your homework, who you're talking to. When I get a LinkedIn request and say, or any type of outreach says, "Dear sir," I mean, my name Hester may be very unusual outside of the Netherlands. I get that. And when we lived in London, my husband could actually call the electricity company and said, "Hello, this is Hester Spiegel." And they wouldn't, bother about it. But if you look at my photo, you see I'm a female, right? So keep it personal. That would be absolutely my key point. And also, and that's a bit more general, but kind of make friends before you meet them. Especially networking general, make it not too transactional. And I think in online, that even comes across further. So accommodate relationships to grow. And it requires a little bit of patience capital, because not all time that you invest, in getting to know people will materialize in anything. But that doesn't matter, right? If you wait until it becomes transactional, it's too late. Then people like, now you want to talk, so that is, make friends before you need them, and online, always make it as personal as you can.
Right. Thank you, Hester.
I think this is an amazing sentence to close this round of panelists. Thank you very much for all of your kindness, sharing your experience and giving advice to all of us. I think what we heard was that at the end of the day, networks are people, and people like purpose. So just networking for networking doesn't really help much. But if you do it right, you can gain some confidence. You can gain sponsorship, which is more important if you're female. As a male, you maybe get a chance to do some quick catch up. E-coffee as something that's very much liked. Personally, I do like it too, and I will send out some invites. And yeah, network, the word says itself, it's some work. If you're not sure how to go, we heard that from Anna, just ask. People are mostly kind and help to understand how you can do it in different cultures. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this panel as much as I did. And thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ameli, May, and Anna, Hester, Anna, and Corinna. So we had great insights of all of you, thinking and reflecting on how you network, what makes a difference in networking, a balance of internal, external networking in different cultures. So AI may help you to, prepare, etc. But the actual doing is a human thing. So the more you prepare, the more you make it personal, the more successful it will also be. So the balancing is, I think, key here. And so thank you so much for your time and input. And so we will continue now going into the last panel, which is Future of Work and Digitization,